Hi everybody, I'm gonna actually take you through the steps I take to make my felted greeting cards. So the first step I do is I cut a piece of fabric, and the cards are usually 5 by 7. So I usually do a 5.5 by 7.5 cut. I then glue that onto a stabilizer. My stabilizer is a medium weight, and I make sure I don't use the stabilizer with the adhesive. I find that my felting needle just doesn't like that and keeps breaking. So I just lightly glue it with like a glue stick. The glue sticks that I like are just little simple glue sticks like this. Anyways, that's the first step. My next step is to find the horizon line. So I take my ruler and I square it sort of the best I can. And then I take my pencil, just a normal pencil, and I draw my line. In this picture here, my birds are all going to be covered. So this is the top part of the sky, and this will be the water. I then find a piece of fabric I want to use for my back sort of hillsides. And because I've cut this before, it has a wave already in it. So what I only need to do is put my ruler down and take my ruler and cut it straight. And there's my little mountainside that I have created. My mountainside then is ironed on. I have this mountainside, actually I use Steam Seam Light for a lot of my things, and it's already has that in the back of it. So then I align that on my straight line that I drew for my horizon line, and then I'll take and put my iron on that. Make sure that you are not having any sticky outies if you are using adhesive, because that will stick to your ironing board. Once I have secured my background fabric, my little mountain, I take it to my sewing machine and do free motion to sew around the top and the bottom just to make it look finished. I'm going to actually go as close as I can to this edge. If by chance that you have like a squiggly line or something that you're not happy, always add another line. So go up it again, because when you have two lines, your eyes, they don't catch that squiggliness or that unevenness. And even if it is uneven, it's okay, because when you look at a mountain from afar, it's not like a perfect shape. It's got like squigglies because the trees are sort of sticking up. So I will put my needle down position, needle up, I'll pull my bottom thread up, hold the tails to the back, drop my dog feed, and then I'm ready for my free motion. Here we go. Since I have to go to the bottom, I will just follow the edge of this card, because that's the card's going to be cut at that point anyway, so it won't matter. So needle down, and then I'll follow it to the other way, just to secure it. You're just securing it so that, I know we've used Seam and Seam Light to secure it, but you should secure it with thread also. You never know, you don't want it to peel off on you. For color choices, this is a maroon that I've picked because my mountains are somewhat a maroon. But I always go for a darker color instead of a light, because light would really show. So if you're any kind of color that you're picking for a mountainside, just go a tad darker than the mountain is, and that should help with a nice stitch. So for the needle punching part of it, I just put it on a foamy that I have, especially for, it can't be like too soft, it has to be a little bit firm. You can buy them online. I have mine in the bigger piece. They don't last forever, but they last for quite a long time. Here's the needle that I use. It's just a one little needle. You don't need a sewing machine or a punching machine to do these cards or art like that. So I have this roving that's already purchased like this. I just tear it off easily, like slowly like that. And then I'll lay it down sort of to give me an idea of where I want the water. And I also want movement. This edge here is going to be straight because that's your horizon. But here, when you're looking at water, you want movement. So I'll tear some more off, and I think I want some like right there, because I think I'm going to put a beach side in this area. So I'm going to just start punching that. All you're going to hear is punching noises. But I start with making my straight lines so that I know that I'm straight up there. Following that line. So we already have it sewn. We already have the mountain side, so we can't have like a crooked horizon line. It'll be just perfect. So now that I've got that down, I will actually follow this area here. I'll follow it with somewhat of a curvature. Here's another little wave. See that the roving is actually telling me what to do. I don't like to flatten everything down to like flat because I like having some bumpiness and making it look sort of like a realism as much as I can. You can see I have white here, so I'm going to have to pull off a little bit more roving and just fill in those lines. There's some here too that I'll have to fix up too. So I'm just going to go up. I really would like to have like something darker up here just to give it shadow. So I have a little bit of a darker roving I'm going to pull off. I only need a little bit, and I'm going to put that there. Fill in those holes. When I do thread painting, I'm probably going to go with a darker thread up here. I actually use darker thread at the bottom too, but I like the darkness that I start at the top, because when you look at something, it's usually going to be shadowing, right? So you want, you know, sort of a depth. You have to fool those eyes of yours and look in the depth. Once I get to this point, I have this 5x7 sort of window that I use for my pictures, and I sort of put it on there to get a better vision of how it's going to look when I actually do the edges. So there's my pictures, so I'm just going to add some things with, fill these lines and maybe give this more. I'm just using sort of plain roving without any fancy silk in it, just to finish it off here. I know I'm going to need it here, and I'm going to add some up here just to give it more depth. So that's going to be my shoreline, and I'll probably just put more of a darker color down here. If I can find a darker color, here's some, just to give it some visual. So I'll just move this and put this in here. As you can see, everything still has movement. It's not a straight line, sort of a beachy look to it. And I do the same thing as I do the water. Let the fibers sort of talk to you and tell you where they want to be. For the water, I am actually going to use some white. This is silk that I buy. It's actually very, very fine, and I'll just arrange it maybe around the shoreline. And because it's very fine, I don't punch it all in like completely, because it'll all disappear into the picture as it's really, really fine. So when I do my thread painting, I'll have to be careful. That's where I'll use like my probably dark blue around here. I'll probably go down there. In this area here, I'll probably use a brown just to tack it down, make sure it's tacked down. And I also have this, this is Tencel, I think they call it. It's not a silk, but it's a really nice product to work with, and I'll put it in there and give it some movement in the water. I'll bring in my frame again to look at it. And it looks pretty good, so I'm actually going to take it to the sewing machine next. I'll see you there. Okay, so we're back at the sewing machine, and I've threaded like a darker blue, and that's where I'm going to start. I'm just going to not pull my thread up because it's at the edge, so it won't make any difference. So, oops, I have something wrong with my threading here. There. So I'm ready to thread paint. So free motion again, your dog feet are down, you're in control. Usually I wear gloves because that helps me, but I won't today. So I'm just going to follow the line here. That's my horizon. I tack that down again first. As you can see, I have some areas here that are bare, but because my background is blue, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to take my free motion and I'm just going to make it go as whatever way you want. Up here I try to make my stitches straight and small. It's far away, so there's not a lot of detail when it's far away. Sometimes I just follow the roving and the color and the way that it is to fill it in. Sort of tells me where it wants to be. You can stitch as much as you want, you can stitch little. I don't like to put a lot of stitches into my greeting cards. I like the roving and the wool to actually dictate the picture. So right here I'm going to make my way, and I can see that I want to go into this wave. Now sometimes I'm going to have to stop and clip some threads that may get stuck under my foot. But you know, you just stop it with the needle down position. At this point I'll just needle down and breathe, look at it and see where I want to go next. I want to go up here a little bit so I can travel on the outside of it. And again, I'm going to like make it look like there's like wavy kind of waves going. Take me back to the top here, and I can fill it in a little bit more as I make my way to the end. I'll stop, I'll breathe, I'll look at it. I'm okay with that. I really like it. I'm going to have to go back in here and actually do a little bit more. I know you can't see it all right now, but I'm going to move down here and I'm going to just work on this wave. I'll follow my foam wave, I guess. You can see that I'm getting a little bit of roving stuck in there, so I'll just move it off to the side. There's my wave. At this point, I don't want to go down to this, so I'm going to actually needle up and I'm going to move it into this little gap because I want to fill in this little gap. And I'll actually just go back in here. I'll just maybe go ahead and tack it down. I'll tack it down with the brown again, but since I'm here, I'll just tack it down. So I'll make my way to the end again, stop, needle down, look at it, assess it, and I know I'm going to need some more things here. So I'm going to travel with my threads. My threads will be clipped. It doesn't matter because the back doesn't matter. I don't like to fully make lines. I stop, turn it, and I know I want to do that. It's sort of a different color and I like that, so it's already telling me that I should have a wave in here. Stop, assess it. Maybe just another little wavy line. You have to tack it down, but you don't need to tack it to death. It gives you a more realistic sort of look, like you're looking at something that has depth. I'm always all about depth and movement. I think that's all I'm going to do for the waves, so I'll see you back in a minute when I change threads. For the sand part, the ground part, I decided to go with a darker kind of multicolor sulky thread, and it's thicker. I like working with thick thread. Again, it gives me more texture, so I just follow this wave to give it that first color. Stop with the needle down and then decide where I'm going to go next. Sometimes I don't know where I'm going to go next, but I'll just follow some of these colors. I know that you want the hillside to go there. You can see I have a little bit of that roving stuck there, so I just cut it, free it up. Oh, it's still there. There. Sort of a hillside, so I'm gonna like make sure I follow that little hillside in the pattern that I take the sewing machine in. And I think I ran out of bobbin thread, so you'll have to hold on a minute. I'm back again, so I'll just keep on doing where we stopped. That's a nice texture here. Really good to tack down the bottom part of it before you continue. That way it doesn't get away from you. There. Just going to trim my threads. I'll put my trusty little, there. Looks pretty. So now I'm just going to add some fun yarns that I have. So I always keep like little fancy yarns. If I have friends that knit, I have them put it in little baggies, just little bits and pieces, so I can add them to the bottom part to give it texture. So I'm back at my little punching station. I'll lay my picture down, and I have like this really neat thread that I'm going to actually put in here. When I use my scraps of yarn, I make sure that like I have like a whole bunch, not like don't hold it straight like that and punch it, but have movement again. You know, it's all about movement, all about tricking that eye. And when you look at things, how they lay, they don't lay straight. They sort of all strewn together, especially, you know, when it's grasses and things like that. So sort of neat how that works. I love that. It's my favorite part, just to add things. It's so much fun. You can add as much or as little. Over here I won't scrunch it up so much. Let me grab my scissors and cut that off. So I'll cut this end off. I'll punch it in. Sort of neat. I have this like little tiny piece of, I don't know, somebody must have been making a scarf of some sort. Anyways, I like the colors in it because it sort of reminds me of flowers. So I'll just put that just close to that. Make it look like there's little flowers out of that. Or grasses, they turn into green. You don't have to have a lot. Whatever you have, use it. So there you go, you have that tacked down, so you're going to actually have to go and sew it down next just to keep it in line. Over over here, I might do, I have like this grassy stuff. It's pretty shiny. Shiny is like all over me. I could actually put a little bit of that in there if I want, but I don't want to. So I won't do that. I'll look around to see what else I can maneuver into this area because it needs something. Or I just might, I might not use anything. Anyways, I'll see you back at the sewing machine. So for tacking everything down, I decided to use like just a thin maroon color. I like the maroon for this vision because this is sort of maroon and it sort of will bring everything together. It's actually a color I use quite a bit. I sort of like it. So when you're tacking it down, you don't have to like tack everything down. You're just trying to, and again, don't go into a straight line. When you see it bundling up, get my scissors. I usually lift it with my needle down position and just sort of tuck it in there so it doesn't stretch out. And I'll just tack it down. Same with this one, I can see it's bubbling up a little too much. I want to actually just straighten it down. There. I sort of lost that little bump, which I like because I'm just thinking about how nature takes a look at things. So that's pretty much tacked down. I'm going to do this part, maybe some of that. That way it won't come apart. Tucking down the bottom part of it. Again, I like it tucked into bunches. And there you have that part. So let me just get something else and I'll be right back. I went and grabbed some neps. This is actually, I bought it through Chaotic Fibers. It's chaoticfibers.com. This is what they look like. They're just like little tiny little neps. I just love working with these things. I don't know why, but they're just so tiny, and I love adding them to my art because they just look like little tiny flowers. So, you know, I'll lay them down here. I used to punch them in, but now I don't. I just use my foot and my scissors and tuck them in. So what I'll do is just go over the first one, and I'll do like little circles or little flowery kind of things on them just to make them look sort of like they belong there. So they'll be tiny. They'll be moving around on you a lot, but I actually find it very, you know, relaxing and like therapy for me, working small. So at this point, I'll do the same thing. I'll just take these that have moved. I'll tuck them in. And then I'll start them again. I can see a little bit of outline. Sometimes I'll just go into them to make them look like a little flower. Like this one can look like little petals. Instead of circles. Needle down when I actually lift it up to tuck these in. And I'll follow to see what's not secured. You want them secured. So here's another one little flower. I can actually make it look sort of from afar. See, I have this one here, so I just lift it up, and I have a few little yellow ones there I'll catch. This one needs to go a little deeper there. I like outlining them also in dark thread. If I match the color to orange and yellow, they don't give that same impact. So that bunch is finished. So you can see how cool that is. I love working with these neps. And a lot more since I discovered I don't really have to punch them in because they are really hard to punch in. They stick inside your needle and don't come down. So I think because I have some there, I'll just put a few in here. Cohesiveness kind of thing. There you have her. I attached the rest of the neps here, and I think I'm done. All I'm going to have to do is just take my ruler and square it off to 5 by 7, and then I'll do a zigzag around it, and then I'll use cardstock and glue it onto cardstock for my greeting card. I hope this was helpful for everybody, and I hope that you go and try something new. I'm always here if you have any questions. You don't have to have fancy roving or anything like that. I've worked years to get this. I started with, just simple items, and you can just make it work. Make it work and then put thread on it. Always go with a darker color of thread on top of whatever you're using. So if you're using this kind of blue, use a little bit of a darker blue. Sometimes I do put white kind of metallic thread in there, but sometimes I don't. For this brown parts, I used like a maroon color, but the maroon color, it actually came from the hillsides. That's why I decided with the maroon. For the yellow and the orange, I used the maroon too. So, keeping the picture sort of cohesiveness and everything. So anyways, hope you enjoyed. Send me some questions if you have any, and have a great day. Bye.